Thank you for taking the time to watch and learn about environmental conditions that can affect children with asthma. We call this video Illuminating Asthma Triggers in hope that we'll put a spotlight on things found in the indoor environment of your home or a child care facility that affects an asthmatic's health. So enjoy this video, laugh a little with your loved ones, and learn how to help those around you.
Dr. Al! Dr. Al!
Well, hello, kids. What's the rush?
Tommy had to go to the hospital today in an ambulance.
He couldn't breathe. His asthma was triggered by something in his house. That's scary. Can things in my house hurt Tommy, Sarah, or me?
Okay, kids. Let's calm down, go inside for a cold drink, and talk about today's excitement.
Dr. Al, what can be in houses that can make people with asthma so sick?
There are many things that can be found indoors that affect people with asthma. These are called environmental triggers, and they can affect each person differently.
Hey guys, missed you at the skate park today. Hey, what's wrong?
Tommy's house has a fireplace, doesn't it? Did you know that smoke is an irritant to your lungs and the other parts of your respiratory system?
Is that what happens when I get too close to a fire and breathe in the smoke? That always makes me cough.
You bet, Paul.
Asthma is a respiratory illness that makes breathing difficult because narrowing of the bronchial tubes. This causes lung tissue to swell, can cause spasms around the bronchial tubes, and an accumulation of mucus within those tubes. So it makes it very difficult for air to get in and out of the lungs. Children who suffer from asthma can have tightness in the chest and wheezing, coughing, and difficulty in breathing.
Smoke contains particles that can be inhaled and cause harm to your lungs. Breathing these particles can reduce lung function and cause difficult or painful breathing. Particulate matter comes from many other sources too. Particles are found in many sizes. The smallest particle can lodge deep in the lungs and result in serious damage.
The size of the particles determines how deeply it can penetrate into the lungs. Particulate matter that is very small can go into the very lowest, deepest regions of your lung, and it can stay there for a long time. The wood smoke that we see from fireplaces is very small. It is almost ultrafine particles, and it is between 2.5 and 1 micron in size. This allows them to go very deeply into the lung and stay there for a long time. This ability to remain in the lung for a long time can then result in higher exposure, which means you could have more irritation to the lung tissue, which then gives us a better chance to see the onset of asthma symptoms in children that respond to the irritation.
How do these particles affect kids with asthma?
Breathing very small particles and other pollutants found in the air can aggravate asthma and lead to higher medication use or even hospital visits. All of these symptoms can result in school absences and affect daily activities.
Can we do anything to protect our lungs from these particles?
Sure.
The Environmental Protection Agency reminds us that an average wood-burning fireplace creates roughly 4,000 times more fine particles than a natural gas furnace. That's a lot of particulates that be in the atmosphere that could help irritate your airway and make the onset of asthma more certain. So we ask, how can we help avoid exposure to these particulates? One way is to properly maintain your stove and your chimney, and then burn seasoned wood in it only. They will burn cleaner and put less particles into the atmosphere. Also, the EPA provides a certification for wood-burning stoves and fireplaces that ensure that they are more efficient, they are cleaner, and they are safer in the burning of wood products.
That's cool information. I can see why it's important to keep away from particulates if you have asthma.
Since you're interested in what happens to Tommy when he's affected by environmental triggers, let's look into Cody's room. So do you think that there are any triggers in this room that could affect Tommy's asthma?
I don't know. I'll bet there are particles in here that can affect Tommy.
You're right, Sarah, but where would they come from?
I bet particles can blow in the window.
You are right.
Pollen is an airborne trigger that is commonly encountered during the spring, the summer, and even early fall. They can enter in the house through windows and doors. They can come in on your clothes and then be left inside. All this different pollen can come from certain grasses and trees and weeds that can be different depending upon where you live. So how can you limit your exposure to these pollen, which turn out to be allergens? Well, you can stay inside with the windows closed on really high pollen days. You can remove indoor plants if they irritate your airways. You can use an air conditioner if you have one to help filter the air coming into the home. But best of all, you can track pollen count days. That comes out daily on TV, and you're able to look to determine how high the pollen is and see if it could affect you if you go outside. That's an easy way to take care of yourself.
How about Max?
Oh no, Max can't be a problem. He's too cute.
Well, Emma, cats have allergens that can affect anyone with allergies or with asthma. Let's see how.
Pets can affect children with asthma by introducing allergens into the air. One such allergen is pet dander. This dander is very similar to the dandruff that we have. It can be transferred to their owners by touch or by inhaling those dander particles into their lungs. We can find pet dander all through our house. We can even find pet dander in homes that do not own pets. All you have to do is go and visit someone who does have a pet and play with it or pat it, and then you will bring it home with you and you can disseminate it through your whole house. So you can ask, what can you do to help limit or to reduce the exposure that your child with asthma may have? A big one is to keep the pet out of the child's bedroom, right? If you put them inside, they're going to sleep on the pillow, they're going to be on their beds, children are going to play with them, and they're going to inhale those allergens that can exacerbate their asthma.
There can't be anything else in here that can cause asthma symptoms to show up.
How about the carpet, or the mattresses, or the bedding?
Seriously? How can those cause a problem?
Well, Paul, dust mites can cause a problem. Let's look at them more closely.
Dust mites have the high potential to affect children with asthma because we can find them anywhere in the indoor environment. Highest levels of dust mites can be found in mattresses and bedding, but we can also find them in carpeting, draperies, upholstered furniture, clothing, and even stuffed toys. So what can we do to protect our children with asthma from dust mite exposure? Well, first of all, we can cover all sleeping surfaces, including pillows, mattresses, and box springs, with an allergen impermeable cover. This separates our children from the dust mites. We should also wash and dry all bedding weekly to ensure that we are keeping the dust mite population in control. We can reduce indoor humidity levels to less than 60%. Ideally, we'd like to find them between 30 to 50%, but if we can keep it under 60%, then we can keep the ability of dust mites to reproduce at a minimum. If there's carpeting in the bedrooms of children with asthma, we can remove them. If we remove the carpeting, then we remove the dust mites that live in them from the children's environment. We should also have children avoid sleeping or lying on upholstered furniture where dust mites may be waiting for them. If we have air conditioning systems, we need to change the filter every month, or at least keep that filter clean. And remember, wash those stuffed animals. Dust mites can be living there.
Not that close.
Sorry, Paul.
Wow, I never knew anything about environmental triggers, but now that I know, I can help keep Tommy safe at my house. There's Tommy's grandpa. He looks worried. I hope he can help Tommy get well.
Yeah, he would do anything to help.
You should remind Tommy's grandfather that cigarette smoke can trigger asthma.
Dr. Al, Tommy doesn't smoke.
That's good, Emma, but just being around tobacco smoke can affect anyone with asthma. Let's learn how tobacco smoke affects people with asthma.
Environmental tobacco smoke, or secondhand smoke, affects the developing lungs of children. One reason why this is important is that children have a higher breathing rate than adults, and this increased breathing rate leads to increased exposure to the chemicals and particulates contained in smoke. The reaction of the hyperresponsive airway found in children with asthma can lead to an emergency room visit from this exposure. Data shows that children that live in a home with a smoker is 63% more likely to have asthma, or children of a teenage mother who smokes has a 3 to 5 times increased risk of developing asthma due to tobacco smoke. Children's exposure to secondhand smoke is responsible for an increase in the number of asthma attacks and severity in symptoms in many, many children. What can you do to protect children with asthma from exposure to tobacco smoke? Well, one, you can make your car or your home smoke-free. If you smoke, smoke only outside of your home or your car. Keep yourself and your children away from places where smoking is allowed. And family, friends, or visitors should never smoke inside your home or car. Did you know that smoke can stick to your clothes? So by simply picking up and hugging a child, can expose that child to tobacco smoke residues on your clothing and trigger an asthma attack. You wouldn't want that to happen, would you?
We know a lot of people who smoke. We need to tell them how to help Tommy and other people who have asthma by not smoking.
Who wants some cold fruit juice?
I do. Dr. Al, you spilled some juice. Should we clean it up or just wait for it to dry?
No, Sarah, we should clean up any spilled liquids or foods. Spilled food or drink items attract another type of environmental asthma trigger, pests. Cockroaches and rodents leave behind many asthma triggers as they move through your house.
Ew, yuck!
Let's investigate these pest-related triggers.
Cockroaches and rodents are grouped in something we call pests when we try to define them in terms of asthma triggers. These pests affect asthma by the body parts or hair or skin flakes or the secretions or droppings that they leave behind. So where can we find these pests within our homes? Well, we always find them in areas that have available food and water, like kitchens and bathrooms and basements. Where would we find these? How can we protect ourselves from exposure to these pests? Well, one thing that you can do is to maintain clean areas and limit the food consumption to only one area within your home. You can make sure that you store your food in closed containers, that you wash dishes promptly, that you keep flat surfaces clean and clear of clutter. If you have garbage or food waste, dispose of them promptly. Don't create a harborage for these pests to hide in and then be able to eat. If you have holes that come inside your home from the outside, caulk them closed. If you have holes in your cupboards or cabinets, use a wire mesh to secure those areas and don't let those pests get in.
Wow, that is really gross, but it is interesting.
Dr. Al, can water leaks from the sink cause asthma symptoms too?
Good idea, Paul. Water leaks may help mold to grow in your home.
How can mold affect people with asthma?
Emma, help me investigate.
Mold is a very powerful environmental trigger for asthma, and it's very powerful because we find it everywhere. There's always mold outside, there's always mold in your home. It's how much of it that matters. Mold acts as a trigger because it gives off spores, and that means it continues to grow within our homes. So where do we find it? We find these mold growth areas within damp, dark, and temperate regions within the home. All they have to have is some water, some food, and a place to grow. And these damp, dark, temperate areas are exactly where they want to be. So what can we do to protect ourselves from exposure to molds? Well, the best thing we can do is to repair all the water leaks and eliminate water sources associated with mold growth. If we do that, then we can contain the population of mold within our homes. If we see area that has mold growing on it, we need to clean it or remove it from the home. We can help maintain mold growth through maintaining relative humidity levels. We always like it to be 50% or less inside homes. Ceiling tiles and carpets are very difficult to get clean once mold begins to grow on them or in them. So maybe the best thing we could do then is just to remove them from the home. If we remove these sources of mold, we can remove the spores, which then removes the exposure potential to our children.
Mold is everywhere, but it is important to control how much is in your home.
Utility rooms and garages contribute to the abundance of environmental triggers found in your home.
How can these rooms affect people with asthma?
What might we find in utility rooms? What can you find?
Mud rooms or other storage areas within the home is very capable of containing chemical irritants. All these chemical irritants could be in detergents or fabric softeners or any other cleaning product that you might use inside the home. So if you have a child with asthma, then you want to be sure that you don't expose them to the vapors and the fumes that come off these chemical irritants. Right? We can even find these in the schools, so you have to be careful even when your children go to school about the cleaning supplies that might be available there. So what can you do if you have a child who has asthma and you have these cleaning products in your home, as most people do? Well, we try to make sure that when we use them, we do it when the child's not at home, or at least in the area that we're using them in. We can open windows and doors and use exhaust fans to get those fumes outside the home before they come inside. And you should always follow the instructions on the product label to be sure that you're using it correctly.
If utility rooms are capable of harming people with asthma, garages must really be scary.
Well, let's see what we might find in a garage.
Garages are great collection points for many asthma triggers. We can have gasoline-powered tools, so we have volatile organics coming from those. We can have cleaners and pesticides and other chemicals like fertilizers that may be stored out into garages. There's always trash cans and recycle bins, which brings in pests. So we have to watch out for then rodent droppings and cockroaches. We can have water that pools up from the cars coming inside from a rain, or even run the air conditioner that might be in your car. And if that water sits around, it can get soaked up into the wood or into carpets that might be out into the garage areas. Then you can have mold growing. So now we have mold spores and the smell of mold out there in the garages. So all of these things can act as triggers within your garage.
Thanks for helping us understand how the environment can affect people with asthma. By understanding how these triggers affect Tommy, it makes his asthma easier to control.
Thanks, Doc.
See you at the skate park tomorrow, Cody.
Tell Tommy to get well soon, and I'll see you kids later.